Okay. Hi, all. Thank you for joining. I'm just getting set up here, making sure we have everything moving correctly, and then we will jump right in. If you can all see my screen, that would be helpful if you share exactly what you're seeing. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can see my screen and what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be talking about how to grow e-commerce revenue by 300% using our unique SPAM strategy. Perfect. Okay, let's jump right in. This is one of our first webinars we've done. We're excited to get started with here. And thank you for joining me on this wonderful day. And I hope you had a chance to get out a little bit. Spring is in the air, and we're excited to see what that means, to the season and to e-commerce in general. So, want to again welcome you guys to the webinar we're hosting today. Today, we're going to dive into how to grow e-commerce revenue by 300% using our unique SPAM strategy. Now, if you're an e-commerce owner and developer and business owner, you definitely are probably invested in learning how to grow your e-commerce brand to the next level. And the best way to achieve that is through an email and CRM strategy. And we're going to dive into exactly how to achieve that, how to get to that level, and what you need to do to scale your brand to the next level. So let's jump right in. I want to invite you. This is an open dialogue. We're all going to be involved in getting your questions answered, learning a lot about e-commerce, learning a lot about email and CRM, the email channel. And for those who don't know, CRM is customer relationship marketing, how to grow the value of your customer, how to develop a better relationship with them so they purchase more and get engaged more. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. And I invite some collaboration. I'm going to ask you to post some comments or questions in the chat, and we'll answer them at will. We'll answer them as we go along. And anything I can provide as we go along, it'll be very helpful for you to share any things you wanna provide, and then I'll try and answer them as we go along. And I'm gonna start with a few questions of my own. So if you're an e-commerce brand owner, right? Most of the time, you may be wondering some of the following questions when it comes to e-commerce, right? How did the digitally native brands, e-commerce brands like Casper, Brooklyn, and Away, how did they scale up to billions in just a couple short years, right? You barely heard about them in the past. They were startups, and now they're unicorns in some cases. So how did they get to that level in just a couple short years? In addition, how do the top 1% of e-commerce brands utilize email and CRM to drive their sustainable and predictable growth? It's such a key channel, and the top brands are using it really well. So that may be a question you're asking. How do they do that? In addition, on the flip side, how do you also stave off competition from Amazon and become Amazon proof and recession proof and ensure profitable e-commerce business? That's critical to a lot of e-commerce brands out there. How do you make sure you develop a relationship with your customers that Amazon can't interrupt? And finally, for those who are using paid media, such as Facebook ads or Google ads, how do you reduce your reliance on them to drive your growth? How do you make sure that you're not just spending money to get people there, spending money to get them back, and really reduce your reliance on it? It's such a critical question for a lot of brands out there because they're spending a lot to generate their e-commerce sales, and you'll see in this presentation how to get to the next level without relying on them. So therefore, anything changes on Google or Facebook, you're not left in the wind. So there's some key takeaways I'd like you to have from this webinar. That if there's a few things you learn from it. Here are what I'd like you to see. Number one, why having an email and CRM strategy is critical to your e-commerce growth and profitability. In addition, I want you to take away how the top 1% of e-commerce brands actually utilize email and CRM to drive sustainable growth. How are they thinking and what are they doing? Let's give those tips to you. I'd also like to show you some live examples of e-commerce brands generating those same exact returns using our very SPAM strategy. In addition, I want to show you how to implement that within your own business, within your own email provider or ESP. And I want to show you how to measure success with key performance indicators and using the right tracking and attribution. So I invite you to give me your full attention. I'm going to shut off my phone. It's already on pause. My Facebook's on pause. I want your attention it's very important for you to dive in and ask your questions, and put in the chat if you have any questions already about whatever it's discussed, or any things I'd like to talk, any takeaways you'd like to achieve on this call. Turn off your cell phones, turn off your social media, because if you're really serious about growing your e-commerce program and growing your email program, this next 45 to 60 minutes are going to be critical in understanding how to get to that next level. So it's going to be very informative and collaborative. So I want to really share that with you really deeply. In fact, if you stay to the end, I'll be sharing 2 major guides for you to get started with. Number 1 is our HiFlyer growth guide, which is the exact strategies of how to grow your e-commerce revenue by 300% in 90 days. It's the exact framework and structure that you need that is beyond just email. It's also involving social and search. And it's the exact strategies that the top 1% are using in their marketing. In addition, I'm also going to send you the email and CRM cheat sheet, which allows you to, out of the box, do some DIY email tricks that will already double your email revenue. In addition, there's a checklist in the back of that you can actually say, like, I did this one, I did that one, and this automatically will help you with developing a stronger email program alone. Combined with the growth guide, you're going to see some really great tips there. So stay to the end. You're going to find some very good value. So number 1, why are you listening to me? Who am I, and why should you listen to me? And what are we doing what have I done that merits talking about this type of strategy and industry? So I was the director of email CRM of one of the largest e-commerce brands in the nation. They've done millions of dollars online, millions through Amazon. I was the director of their email and CRM channel, and that was what saw the largest growth. I've managed multi-million-dollar email lists, automations, lifecycle campaigns, drip series that has fueled that growth to become one of the top e-commerce brands in the nation. I was an award winner for the best email performance year over year at Blue Core Summit, which I don't know who knows Blue Core. It's a great email provider, a great tool to use for your personalization segmentation. I've been a guest speaker at a lot of the e-commerce conferences out there, a lot of the email and CRM conferences out there. So I'm proud to have spoken to a ton of e-commerce brands out there who are trying to get to the next level. And I've worked with exactly those brands, hundreds of brands, hundreds of e-commerce stores internationally on developing their own CRM strategy. And frankly, on the end of the day, we don't just talk the talk. We're not just here to present something. We're here to actually do the work. We've actually done it. We've actually tested and iterated and learned about what works best. And we've actually achieved that next level through the actual work we've done. So that's kind of my background a little bit. And a little bit background about the agency we have is that at HiFlyer, which I'm a co-founder and head of strategy with, our mission is to build better customer relationships. That's it. At the end of the day, if you don't have a great relationship with your customer, businesses don't take off. So it's so critical for you to build that customer relationship. And the best way to do that is through the email and CRM channel. And using proven e-commerce and email and CRM strategies, that's how you develop that relationship over time. One key note to take out of this is that it's not about the email list you have, it's about the relationship to the list you have. That's what really matters. So it's not just the sheer number of emails you send or the sheer number of emails on your list, it's how you develop that relationship. And this is a core pillar behind what we do. Like the main area, the main mission and focus of our brand. You can see some of the team members here, past and present. Our main mission is to elevate your brand to compete and win at e-commerce, right? That's all we do. We want you to elevate your brand to get to the next level and compete with the best, because there's something inherently great about your brand. If you're just even starting out, but you've been in business for 30 years, there's something inherently great about your brand. You just need to tell your story and share it out with the world. And there's no reason why you can't compete to win at e-commerce overall against the best. But in order to win in e-commerce, we believe that you need to market to people, not emails, right? We are an e-commerce agency that specializes in email and CRM. And what drives us is that we're marketing to people, not to email lists, not to emails, right? You want to get to the person behind the email. That's the magic behind driving an email and CRM strategy. As such, we have our core values for email and CRM, right? One core value is we build great relationships, right? It's about the customer relationship. We focus on the click. The email is meant to drive clicks and traffic to your site. The better the click, the better the conversion, the better the conversion, the better the customer, and on and on. So when you focus on the click, it drives a significant amount of revenue and just a better relationship, because the customer, the person who subscribed, who got your email, just saw that there was some relevancy to what you sent them, some personalization, some segmentation that was really key to them, and they got the click, right? So that is so important. We also focus a lot of what we do on working smart and not hard. I'm sure if you're a business owner, if you run your own, you run the channel of email and CRM within your e-commerce brand, it's so important to focus your energies on what works best and not just focus on working hard at stuff. So work smart, not hard. That's a core value of ourselves. And at the end of the day, our strategy really works. It's proven. You can see a testimonial from one of my old colleagues who said, in our most recent year, we've achieved 50% revenue growth while reducing send volume by 40%. So we really made a lot more money using the spam strategy we implemented, and we sent less emails. So that's gonna be really interesting to dive into in a second. I'll get to that towards the end when we see some results. But before we dive into our spam strategy, I think it's so important to ask ourselves, number one, what are the top 1% doing? And how do they think about email and CRM? Like, what are they thinking about it? Is it old? Is it antiquated, right? Are people not using it anymore? What's going on, right? So I want to just make it very clear. The top 1% just love email. They just do. If you go on their site right now, you can go check out Brooklyn and Away Travel, some of the darlings of the DDC, of the direct-to-consumer startup industry. Glossier, Hay Needle, some of the best brands out there are dedicated to getting that email address, dedicated to capturing you right away, right? Best Buy at the bottom, Brooklyn in itself, they capture the whole screen just from getting that email, right? Want 10% off, get their email. So why do they love email so much? They thought it was old. Well, that's why we're going to dive into the secrets of the 1% and how they think. And they think basically about the customer journey. That is the method behind what they're doing. And let's dive into really quickly about how they think so we can adapt our thinking. In their idea, in their mindset, it's not about just the email. It's not about search. It's not about just social. It's not about just influencers or anything. It's about the journey. And in the average customer journey for e-commerce, the average number of touch points you will find is about 9 touch points. So that means you need to excel in search, social, video, SMS, YouTube, Instagram, reviews, SEO, you name it. There's a lot of different touch points that influence the customer to get the purchase and go to the next level. So they know that the journey matters. By crafting orchestrated, personalized email marketing journeys across all those 9 touch points is how you win success, right? As you can see at the bottom, Goldbelly right here, they are excelling in being positioned everywhere along your journey. If you go off to Facebook, they're there. If you go out into your Gmail, they're there. If you go, you may sign up for an SMS, they're there. So it's all about the journey. And when you think about the journey, it's a different philosophy, right? Most brands focus everything they do on a funnel, right? They drop the people into the funnel. Our goal is to build our funnel and get people in and drive them down into our, into different stages. There's top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom funnel, and it's all about getting them into that one-time sale, and then we're done. Let's go get more of them, which is great. That definitely is a good strategy. However, the top 1% of brands, which is what we're talking about right now, the top 1% of brands is focused on a flywheel approach, which essentially says we're going to attract the best customers for our brand, nurture them and engage them into customers, delight them into loyalists, at which point they become much more high value. And we're going to feed that back into the world, back into Google, back into Facebook to go find more of them and more of their friends. That's the flywheel. It's constantly rotating and focused on attracting, engaging, and delighting. So that's how they think. They think about the flywheel. And if you want to kind of get a really quick visual about how they do this, it's that they put their offer out to the world. They broadcast everything out on paid social, paid search, on their site. And they have one job entirely, is that to get the email address, to get the data, to get the user to sign up, opt in, and capture their data. Of course, they want to drive them straight to the sale, but they understand, 2%, 3%, 5% conversion rate only means 95% of people are leaving the site and not buying. So that's where they focus all their energies into retargeting, into email nurture series, into different methods that get the customer back on the path to conversion and get them back to convert. And after they're done with that, they then nurture them through their email and CRM strategy. That's how they grow lifetime value. I'm going to show you how they do that in a second. But what is the main takeaway from the top 1% strategy right here? The top takeaway is that everything revolves around the customer. everything. And if you see, the way to acquire and understand the customer is through their email address, which is why Brooklyn is constantly trying to capture email. Best Buy, email. Away Travel, email. Glossier, email. Sephora, email. They're all centered around that one customer identifier that they can capture and know that it will fuel everything else. I want to sit back and let that sink in. That's a major takeaway, because when you think about how the top 1% are doing it, it's interesting to see that they are constantly focused around the email. So if you have any questions or comments about how they think, feel free to put in the chat. I have a question here from Jeremy. It says, why doesn't it revolve around SMS? It's a great question. It could revolve around SMS too. There's some elements about SMS, but the main thing about email is that email is it's hardly ever changed, right? And email is an identifier that you use for almost everywhere, right? So if you log into Google Analytics, or not Google Analytics, if you log into Gmail, or you log into any e-commerce brand, what do they always ask for? They ask for your email, right? If you make a transaction online, they ask for your email to send you a confirmation email. So everything revolves around email. It's hardly ever changed, and it really identifies people a lot better. So that's why email is so critical. And best part of it is free, right? It's a very cheap method of marketing. So that's how they do it. I see another question here from Sharon that says, what's the difference between direct-to-consumer and established brands? So direct-to-consumer are the brands that pretty much said, we're gonna, instead of selling in large marketplaces like Amazon, or selling in Macy's, or just bigger brands out there that act as a marketplace. So they're going direct to consumer. They start selling directly instead of selling through a marketplace. Like Warby Parker used to sell glasses through, let's say, Cohen's Phone Fashion Optical, or other places out there. Now they're going straight to the consumer and delivering it at a cheaper price point, and so they don't have to add on to fulfillment costs. That's a great question. So now I want to dive into why email and CRM is critical to your e-commerce store. Why is this such a critical part of your e-commerce brand, and how do you leverage it to the next level? So before I dive into that, I want to talk a little bit about the key parts of email and CRM. So number one, with email and CRM, every dollar you invest, it yields on average about a $44 ROI. So you're already maximizing your return. You see a better return than your social. You can see here on the chart, it's much more effective at acquiring people than social media. And it just gives you a lot more value from that. It's also the most profitable channel. You have a lot more profit from it because it's a free channel, right? You build your database, it's yours forever. It's an owned channel versus a borrowed channel, right? On Facebook or Google, you're borrowing their audience from them. You're kind of leasing it from them and paying them to use it. So really it's a borrowed channel. Email is an owned channel. It's yours, and no one's gonna be able to take it away. As I just shared with you, it's also a customer-centric channel, which means that it's a one-to-one relationship. It develops that personalized approach where there's customers, and you want to just have that connection automatically without using some sort of middleman. So that's a great way. It's also, as I just mentioned to Jeremy, it's a unique customer identifier. For every other channel, search, SMS, social, offline, there's nothing that revolves around a customer better than an email address, right? Because that's how you use to identify yourself, to get transactions done, to get bills paid and things like that, right? So that's your unique identifier. But the number one reason why email and CRM is so critical for your brand is the Pareto principle. You may have heard this in a different way, but the Pareto principle is pretty much, it explains that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. In other words, if you apply it to e-commerce, 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. I guarantee if you look into your data and dive into your customer value, you'll see that majority of your revenue comes from just a very small portion of your database, a very small portion of your customers. One client we worked with they were generating 40% of their revenue from 5% of their customers. So that ratio is even smaller. So spending more time on your best customers will yield the best, most and better revenue. So you see that the effort, right? Work smart, not hard, is very well applied here. You can definitely get more revenue by just generating, just working within your best customers. That's why email and CRM is so critical, because if you focus your energy on customer growth, your business will do better. You're not just here acquiring more people from search or social. Then if that's the case, Why do brands fail at email and CRM so badly? Why do we see so many brands struggling with kind of like saying, "Oh, does it make sense to me? I don't know if it's a great thing. Email is dead." Why are brands failing at it? So I'm gonna tell you the the top reasons why brands fail at email CRM is number one, they're focused on selling their stuff, right? Remember, it's not about the list, it's about the relationship you have with the list. But most brands are focused on selling stuff and not developing, nurturing, or personalizing a relationship. They just say, I got stuff to sell. I'm gonna shoot it out an email. I'm gonna do a batch and blast approach, and just talk at them. Well, that doesn't really work too well for them, so they fail, right? It's a batch and blast approach, also known as spray and pray. I got something to say. I'm gonna shoot it out there and see what sticks. Inefficient. Many brands also project their own email experience on results. Oh, I get emails from here, emails from there. It's all in my inbox. It doesn't work, and it's just sitting there. Or I get emails from work. I never check them, and things like that, right? So they project their own email experience on results and kind of neglect the channel. There also is zero focus on learning or A/B testing. Very interesting story. We were just implemented a culture of testing at one of our clients. Just by testing alone, we saw a 30% lift in revenue because we implemented testing. We didn't even look at results yet, but just we saw that testing led to a jump in revenue. So there's zero focus on learning or testing from most brands. They just feel like, hey, it doesn't work, so why am I testing on it? They also don't realize that a customer's journey is just not linear, right? A customer is not going necessarily from an email to buying the product. It doesn't necessarily work that way. Customer may get an email and may decide to buy something else within the email, something else online. They may have jogged their memory. They may have said like, oh yeah, by the way, I need this too. So it's not a direct correlation between showing the product within the email and buying the product. It's not linear. And frankly, at the end of the day, it's not as sexy as social media. So it's not as prevalent. People don't think about it as much. It's just not a really the type of channel that everyone says like, oh yeah, let's run emails, let's do it, right? Social media is much cooler, it's much hipper, it's got this cool thing, influencers are there, right? It's just not as sexy. So they kind of neglect it. But here's the key thing, and why is this important now? Why is focusing on this channel so critical for you right now? Well, I'm going to show you exactly why. Number one, you see that snow globe at the bottom right? Number one, what's happening is that the world, due to COVID, turned upside down. It's like a snow globe. Everything just kind of floating in the air right now. Some of the pieces have landed. You can see e-commerce has grown by about 44% last year. It's on track to grow about another 30% this year. So COVID disrupted the traditional buying patterns, and everything's still landing. And so you're in a really great position to capture a lot of the market share that didn't exist before, right? A lot of people, more people are online, and there's a lot of room to grab stuff. So it's so critical to focus on digital marketing to capture your share. In addition, Amazon is clearly absorbing all customers through their own flywheel, right? You can see at the bottom, the Amazon experience flywheel, low prices, large selection, and super convenience. People are loyal to convenience right now. So Amazon is absorbing your customer base, whether you like it or not. So you have to stand and compete. You have to be able to compete with the customers you already have and develop a relationship. Direct-to-consumer brands are also inserting themselves between you and your customer. How many times has Seamless or DoorDash or Uber has kind of interrupted that kind of connection your brand previously had with the customer? I'll give an example. DoorDash came in and said, hey, they're scaling up. They have a whole bunch of different products now. They have a whole bunch of different convenience options for customers to buy food. Before, you talk to the restaurant directly and you have a relationship, but then DoorDash came in and said, we can do it better and more convenient. So there's a disruption. That's so critical to have the relationship with your customers. You can't develop the relationship if there's a middleman. And finally, paid media is getting pricier and it erodes margins. It just, takes away a lot of the margins you may have had from your product already. So by spending more money to get your customer, it becomes more expensive. Everyone's bidding now on more keywords because they also see that e-commerce is growing significantly. So that's why it's so critical to really focus on it right now. But there's one more reason. The number one reason behind why it's so important now is this, that number one, it costs about 600 to 700% more to acquire a customer than keep a customer. So not only will that customer make you more money, it also costs you more to get a new one like that, right? So why pay Google and Facebook to bring you leads and then pay Google and Facebook with remarketing to get those leads back? That's inefficient, reduces your margins, and it costs more in the long run. Existing customers trust more, they convert better, and they grow faster. So you will want to put all your energy into growing the customer lifetime value. So how do you keep those customers? Email and CRM. That's why it's so important for you to think about it now, because you're now spending a lot of money focusing on social media, focusing on Google ad spend, and they're all great channels. They're all super important. But if you don't have a great email and CRM strategy, what happens is you lose out on all the possible customer value that you could have unlocked if you just focused on it. Instead, you're still chasing that one-time buyer, that single buyer, instead of focusing on growing that one-time buyer into a two-time buyer, into a three-time buyer and loyalist. So I'm going to pause there for questions or comments. Again, I wanted to unpack exactly what I showed you. Number one, it's super high ROI to focus on your email channel. Remember, $1 yields $44 in revenue, right? On average. It's critical now because Amazon and everyone, it's the snow globe. The COVID-19 disrupted everything. And right now, pieces are still landing. And so many brands are still trying to pick up the pieces. And now you have the opportunity to grab your market share. But most brands fail at it, right? A lot of brands just fail at getting that, getting their emails in and succeeding in growing the customer value because they just don't know. They have their own experiences, they have their own problems. So it's not really relevant to them or interesting to them. So I just saw this question here. Sorry about that. Let me just escape for a second, remove this. Perfect. So yeah, it's such a most brands fail at this because they just don't see the value in it. They think it's not sexy enough. So I'm gonna spend more money on social media and be there. So there's a challenge right there. So are you prepared to implement a strategy that unlock that value? That's really key. So if you have any questions or comments, I saw a question come up that said, can I do this within MailChimp? You could do a lot within your existing email provider. That's so critical. You could do a ton. Question is, from MailChimp, that's one email provider. What you want to kind of focus on is saying to yourself, number one, do I have the right journey? Is MailChimp dedicated to focus on the journey, or is it MailChimp just dedicated to sending emails? So a lot of providers out there are meant to send emails. They're not meant to build the customer relationship. And you just saw what you're up against, right? The customer relationship is so key. The top brands are thinking about it. And if you're not thinking about it, because your email provider can't keep up, you're going to be left behind. We use Klaviyo. I think Klaviyo is one of the best at developing the customer journey and one of the best at e-commerce. That's actually one tool we specialize in, Klaviyo. So great question there. Now I want to get into exactly what we came here to see. What is the spam strategy that I'm talking about for e-commerce, and how do you leverage spam strategy to grow your e-commerce brand by 300% more, and just drive your business and grow your customers and grow your brand, grow profitability? To understand the spam strategy, we're going to go into 4 key elements that go into the spam strategy. And guess what? No secret. We're not talking about how to, you get out of the spam folder, or how to generate, how to improve your deliverability or anything of that sort. We're talking about the initials, S.P.A.M. That is what's key behind our spam strategy. We use it as a cute play on words because it's very easy to remember, right? When you think email, you think spam, right? So this is a great way to turn spam on its head and say, we're doing something different, and it works even better. So SPAM stands for 4 key areas: segmentation, personalization, automation, and multiply or multiplication. Those are the 4 key areas we focus on: segmentation, personalization, automation, and multiplication. By developing the right segment, the right person, and saying at the right time, and scaling that is the difference between succeeding in email and failing in email. I'll put it in other words that's a little more easier to understand. The spam strategy focuses on sending the right person, the right message at the right time, and repeating it, doing it at scale, constantly growing and growing and growing, and doing it over and over and over again. Right person, right message, right time, repeat. Right person, right message, right time, repeat. If there's one thing you take out of this webinar, it's right person, right message, right time, repeat. It's on our wall in our office when we talk about it with our team. Right person, right message, right time, repeat. I will go into all those specifically and how to implement it in your brand in about a second, but I want to let it sink in. Right person, right message, right time, and repeat it. That is the spam strategy. That's the core pillars behind what we do. So I'm going to go into, instead of saying like how people leverage it, I'm going to go into an actual use case right here where we talk about a use case where most of us can understand, right? I'm a men's fashion e-commerce store, and I want to sell these $200 brown Oxford shoes at 10% off, right? That's a pretty standard case, right? If you're If you're in fashion, e-commerce, you have goods to sell, give a discount, you just got to get it out there, right? Inventory stacking up, got to get it out there. So using that use case, I'm going to go into exactly how to leverage this our spam strategy for that use case. And I'm sure you can apply it to any use case you have. In fact, if you have a use case, put in the chat, put in the Q&A if you can. I know some people are sending the chat, but put in the Q&A any use cases where you think that would be a great, great way to show this spam strategy. So I'm going to use it from this brown Oxford shoes at 10% off. So step number one in our spam strategy is segmentation, right? So we want to find the right person for the right message, right? So remember, before you had a pray and spray approach, a batch and blast approach, where you would just send the email out, I got shoes to sell, let's send it out to the list, blast it out there. Now we're focused on segmenting out the right person for this message. That is key. Now, I'd love for you to put into the Q&A right there and post in there, what segments do you think you'd find for this audience right here? And let's see what you think. Let's get an idea about what segments you think would be a fit for this. So I'll give a few right away. Segmentation, you focus on people who bought black shoes, right? They bought black shoes, they may be interested in these brown shoes. Sample two, people who bought blue suits, right? That's another sample segment. People who bought blue suits now would want these brown Oxford shoes. It seems to go well with the outfit, right? That's a good segment too, to segment out. Again, before we did a spray and spray approach, now we're segmenting out different audiences, and you can send to each one too. Another sample segment, people who are browsing brown shoes right now or within the last 60 days and haven't bought. That's a great segment also. They clearly have shown an indication to buy. Another segment is people who have bought brown monk strap shoes or brown loafers, right? Hey, I have these monk strap shoes. They may be interested in brown Oxford shoes. They may go hand in hand, right? A great segment to think about. Another one, something that a lot of people tend to forget is people who click on emails. Let's not forget that people who actually engage with your channel are so critical. So any segments you may think about, post in the Q&A or chat, and I'll see if I found any. That's a great question. I think someone posted that people who opened emails in the past. So that's the same. You can find people who opened emails. That's good. We like to focus on the click, right? So one of our core pillars is focus on the click. So people who open emails are great, but people who click the emails are much better. Another question I have, why suits? Oh, that's a great question. The reason we focus on suits is because if you're in the fashion e-commerce business, then generally it's not just about the single product, it's about the look and the feel and the outcome, right? If I'm on an interview, if I want to go for a job or a date or wherever I'm going with my suit, you want to kind of complete the look, and you want to have this kind of seamless stylish look in fashion. So this is why you want to zero in on the people who would be apt to buy the shoes, and not just people who are shopping shoes, people who are actually apt to complete the look and complement products that are complementary to them. So that's a great question. Great comment. So segmentation 101. Before pray and spray, now you're segmenting out the right person. Step number 2, personalization. So again, same use case, but before you did one size fits all. We have our segment, but then we had creatives that just kind of did a one size fits all approach. You just sent out a banner with brown Oxford shoes at 10% off, right? So now we have the opportunity to personalize content to each one of those segments. So I'd love to see what you have and ideas we have for personalizing your content. That's going to be key. And think about what you can do right now, using design, using dynamic products within your email. If you have that set up within your email provider, what can you personalize right now to get it out the door? Because we found the right segment. We just need to be able to share the right thing. Remember, as I said before, it's not just about finding the segment. You need to focus on the click. They need to be able to click through and say confidently that this email was personalized to me, and I can see myself buying this product. So here's an option number 1 where we say, right, segmentation and now personalization. So for the segment of people who bought black Oxford shoes, well, the content within your creatives, within your subject line can be, hey, loved your black Oxford shoes? We picked another one you may like. That's personalization, right? You know what they bought before, and we know that this may be a good fit for them going forward. Let's use segment number 2, people who bought blue suits. For the people who bought blue suits, as I mentioned before, right, we want to kind of play up the style and the look and the feel of pairing your suit with your shoes. Or you can even play up the offer, but one thing to note here, we aren't playing up the offer that much in any of these, because the more personalized you get, the less reliant you are on discounts and promotions, right? It's about personalization. You'll see a lot more profit from that. So people who bought blue suits, you can show a pairing between the person in the blue suit and their brown shoes. It's a great look. Option number 3 for the segment of people who are browsing brown shoes right now or within the last 60 days, content can personalize the incentive to complete checkout now. If they haven't been pushed over the edge to buy the blue shoes at full price, now is a great place to play up that 10% off offer. So each one of those lines in this sentence, in the use case, are so critical to think about, because most times you can actually do it using segmentation and personalization. You can usually send a subscriber their email and not sacrifice margins with a discount. Some cases you may have to. So it's so important to know what you can, where you can where you can play up the discount and not discount, so you can improve your profitability. So people are browsing brown shoes right now. Content can personalize the incentive to complete the checkout now. Option number 4, segment number 4, people who bought those brown monk strap shoes or brown loafers. The creative can then be, hey, add these brown Oxfords to your collection, right? So you see that you're just talking at them a lot better. You're understanding that they bought these pair. Now, hey, this one will complete your collection for the ones who bought others. For black shoes, these brown shoes will help complete that style and expand your Oxfords, right? So there's a lot of different personalization that goes into this. Guess what? The emails get clicked significantly higher than you just doing a one size fits all creative. Excuse me. So now we have the segmentation. We discussed personalization, finding the right person, right message. Now we're focused on the right time. And that's step number 3 in our spam strategy. Step number 3 in our spam strategy is automation. And it's not just about finding the right time to send something like AM, PM, right? It's about sending it at the right time when they're about to make the purchase or when it makes sense for them. So I'm going to go through a really quick use case here where, again, same product. Before, you were manually identifying segments and doing a business as usual creative, a kind of standard creative when you just spray and pray. Now we've identified the segment, we pulled the content, and we're going to send the email automatically all at once. That's automation, right? It's not just about sending at the right time. It's about automatically developing a workflow or an automation that can, the minute they identify the person, they're already compiling the email, preparing it to send, and launching at the right time. So here's an example of how that works. First, post in the chat what you think you can automate here as well, because there's so many different variables here. Just dive into the use case and you can see some different variables that you may want to include into your own. So stage number 1, for example, a West Coast person has bought a blue suit today, right? Figure, day 0, they bought a blue suit today. Step number 2 in your automation, wait X amount of days, 10 days, 30 days, 40 days, whatever it may be, wait X amount of days. Step number 3 in your automation, email automatically pulls in the brown Oxford shoes from your CMS, automatically populates the creatives into your email. And guess what? It launches at West Coast time to this customer with a message, these go really well with your new blue suit. That's automation. So in one fell swoop, we've segmented the right person. We found the right time when they were going to buy again, based on whatever your data tells you, or anything that you may say, hey, let's take a stab at that in terms of amount of days. We've personalized the email and we've sent it at the right time, right in that life cycle when they're thinking about buying shoes, right? For example, you may not want to send it right when they're still waiting for their delivery of their suit to send them, hey, go buy some new shoes. You may want to wait a few days after they try on their suit, get it nice and styled and post on it. They want to look good in it, but now you send it at the right time and it's all automated. So we have the right message, the right person, the right message, right time. Now let's get into the next level, which is repeat. So step number 4 of our spam strategy is multiply or multiplication. We want to be able to multiply this effort across the board, across multiple product lines, right? We want to create an email process that can be replicated seamlessly across your entire product line and all your categories. So critical when it comes to any brand and any e-commerce brand, right? You just maybe you sell one style of a product, maybe you sell 100, maybe you sell 1,000, right? You want to be able to replicate this process as many times as possible. And that's what repeat does. That's how the top brands are thinking by using their own kind of version of a spam strategy, where they're focused on driving the same automation to the same segment that's a fit for it. So for example, if I'm the guy in the bottom left right here, if I'm looking at brown shoes or I'm in that market of that segment, right, I'm going to segment them out, personalize it, automate it. If I'm looking at belts, segment, personalize, automate that. If I'm looking at ties, I want to segment them out, personalize it, and automate it. Gift cards, segment, personalize, automate. Everything here is built at scale, right? So if I'm looking at this product line and I am in the right segment, I'm going to personalize the email I sent to them and I'm going to automate it. Sometimes you could do this with a browse abandon or a cart abandon or a search abandon, or sometimes not, right? It really depends on what they're looking at and what data points you're bringing in to your email provider. So, but the point is that if you don't have the strategy set out, this will never get done, right? So, and the best part is that this is working smart and not hard. You segmentation, personalization, automation, multiplication. That's kind of what we're focused on here. That is the SPAM strategy. So I'm going to pause now for half a second. Look for your questions or comments. Anything you want to post in the question and answer. Glad to answer it. What is most important to you on this? What do you think you're doing well? What do you think you're not doing well? What do you think could be improved based on this philosophy? And next, I'm going to show you some of the results we saw by having that philosophy and implementing that within your email channel and how that's driven the e-commerce brand to the next level. So the question right here from John Q. He asked, how do you drive the segmentation behind this? Okay, that's a great question. So the segmentation is really driven by, and it depends how big you are as a brand. It's driven by your own logic, your own business understanding sometimes, or it's driven by your data scientist. If you have a data scientist, not many do, right? Not many have a data scientist at their beck and call. But it's also driven by your email provider too. So within Klaviyo alone, we can actually segment out types of customers based on what they bought. So for example, if the person bought, like I said, a blue suit, we can make an estimate that says, well, most people that bought a blue suit, they would buy the next product after like about, the shoes after about 15 days, right? Or if they bought a camera, right, we expect them to buy another item related to their camera within 30 days. So it's all about not only your business understanding, but it's also about what the data provides based on your email provider. So email provider should be able to pull in a lot of that data. It also goes beyond just product-driven areas. So for example, if you have a one-time buyer and you found that the one-time buyer tends to buy again after 45 days, 60 days, 180 days, well, time your email to that moment in time where they can start saying, I'll get the email, I made my purchase, I got my follow-up email right there. So that's a great time to do it. Segmentation is so key. Ruthie over and asks a question about personalization. How do you personalize the content at open time? So that's a great question here. There are some people that personalize, there's some tools that can personalize your email at time of open and some tools that can personalize your email at time of send. So there's two different ways to go about it. I think right now you want to just personalize the email as best you can using the products you've selected for them, as well as some machine learning, some artificial intelligence. So a lot of the top email providers will dynamically populate products that others have bought similar to them. So within the email, it'll be totally dynamic. So what I see in my email is different than what Jane sees and different than what Joe sees. So everything will be totally dynamically populated. That's a great tool. You just have to measure it and track it and see how that's moving the needle. Okay, another good question from Sean over in Florida. I guess that's Florida. Sean in Florida. Automation doesn't make sense to me. Why do that? Oh, well, that's a great question. Automation definitely is, it saves you a lot of time. Some people don't like automation. Some people it says like, oh, it's taking away jobs or it's, eclipsing what we do on our own. And I don't feel that. I feel if you have the right tool and the right technology, using automation can help empower you to think more strategically. And I found really great success by leveraging a lot of automation in all our email programs, because what that does is that it's almost a set it and forget it, but it allows you to think more strategically at the end of the day. So for example, if I turn on automation like cart abandon, I would know that people who abandon their cart are getting remarketed to, right? They're getting their emails. I can even send it over to Facebook or send them an SMS too. That's possible too. That's automation. But what I can't do, what that frees up my time to do is that I can even think to myself, well, should I make an offer for those who abandon a cart or not? Should I think beyond just the past, the next 3 days of when they abandon a cart, or should I go to 14 days or 20 days after they abandon their cart too? So it allows me to think a little more strategically. That's why automation is great, to kind of put it on your frontal lobe and just, set it up, get it done, and it just runs automatically. I wouldn't be afraid of thinking about taking away kind of like your valuable efforts you put into email. It'll outperform. I think the key part also in general, just so everyone knows, is that all these emails and everything we're doing is about the relationship, right? It's about personalizing everything to the customer, right? The customer, they used to say the customer is always right. So I believe in the customers always. So it's always about the customer. You have to surround everything you do to what the customer is showing you. Great question. So next, within our spam strategy, I want to talk about the results we've seen. I think that's something that everyone wants to see right away and say, hey, that's great talking, right? Like I said, talk the talk, but have you walked the walk? Are you seeing results from what this is doing? That's so critical, because at the end of the day, a spam strategy has to work really well, and certainly work within your email channel, or work for everyone else, right? Work for the customer, right? We should see higher engagement, but it's not just about opens and clicks either. It's about revenue, right? So I want to show you a quick example of one client pretty recently, in March 2021, where we've implemented the spam strategy from the email channel. Historically, back in 2020, March 2020, they were on email list about 30,000 people. They were making about $2,000 from their email list, right? It scaled up to 30,000. It was at the time probably around closer to like 18,000. So that's another thing. You're going to grow your list. So they were about 18,000 subscribers. They were making about $2,300 a month from their email list. Now, that means there's a lot of opportunity. Using the same exact email list, we came in, we implemented the spam strategy: right message, right person, right message, right time, repeat, right person, right message, right time, repeat. We implemented the spam strategy. Guess what? Within that same database, we grew revenue by 725%. So when I'm talking that you're growing revenue by 300%, I'm not joking. There's a massive amounts of revenue to unlock within your email channel from your customers. They're willing to buy from you. They're willing to share their dollars and cents with you if you just talk to them in the right way, build that relationship. Transactions went up 650%. Average order value increased. Conversion rate increased by 60%. So imagine all these people come back to your site and not just clicking more or engaging more, but buying more, adding more to cart, and converting faster. That is a huge jump. Those jumps are not common. I talked about 300%, we're at 700%. Here's it zoomed in right here. You can see that number for those who are skeptical about the increase. Right here, same list. Yeah, we were able to drive a little increase in list size, but overall, it's the same exact list. It's inherent within your customer database. You just have to unlock it. And to show that that's a trend that's continuing, here's February 2021, right? The month before, 640% growth in revenue, almost 300% growth in transactions, right? They used to make $3,500 a month from their list. Now they're making $26,000 from their list. Average order value nearly doubled. Conversion rate up 30%. These are great numbers for any brand to see. And the best part is highly profitable. They haven't paid Google or Facebook to run an ad to them. They haven't done any of that stuff. This is inherent within their email list just through the spam strategy. I want to go even deeper. For those of you on this call, on this webinar, who have a larger list, right? Who are dealing with millions and millions and millions of people on their list. Well, we do that too. In 2018, I want to look at 2018, 2019, because 2020 was kind of a crazy year for everyone. We grew a lot in that year, but it wasn't fair apples to apples. So I want to show you 2018, 2019. In 2018 alone, we started off the year in 2017 with $47 million in revenue. We ended 2018 at $72 million in revenue from the email channel. That's a 54% increase in revenue. That's about $25 million growth from that channel alone. Here's the kicker though. Look over at delivered. You see that on the side? We even sent less emails. We delivered less emails, yet we made 50% growth in revenue. And the trend continued. Look down at 2019. 2019, we grew 33% in revenue. We even compared it in Google Analytics for those who want to see the difference between the two. 33% growth in revenue. We delivered 11% less emails. So that is clearly a trend line that you need to see, is that by using the spam strategy, you segment it out better, you personalize the emails better, you automate it to work faster, and you multiply, you repeat it over and over and over again. Guess what? You send less emails, you do significantly better. So this is clearly showing a drive and a jump in results that inherent within your list. It's just unlock. You just need to unlock it. If your customers are willing to give it to you, you just need to unlock that revenue. There's a I blew it up for you a little bit for those who can't see. 2019, just from Google Analytics, you see in the Q1, 17 million in revenue versus 12 million in revenue, 33% jump. So the spam strategy works. It just works. It drives a significant amount of revenue by just segmenting and personalizing email. And I'm going to give you a quick example about how the creatives look too. For those who are asking about what do the creatives look like and how do we leverage that from the creative angle. So over here from the creative perspective, in the past, we did a respectable amount of email marketing here too, right? So for example, we used to run a VIP one-day sale, up to 40% off, check out all our deals, fine, amazing. Mailed it to about 617,000, earned about 109,000 in revenue, respectable. You can go to sleep that day knowing that you did a great job. But we personalized the email. The next email that came out, we segmented out using the spam strategy, segmented out to the right person, personalized it to the user, automated it to run, and scaled it up by multiplication, right? We multiplied it out. We actually mailed to 300,000 people, 50% less. We earned 190,000 in revenue, 70% more. So you see, by implementing the spam strategy, you do a lot better. You're not mailing more. You're not spammy, if you will, and you're driving much more, significantly more revenue. That's how you scale an e-commerce brand to the next level. That's how you get there. So I want to pause there for a second, see if you have any questions or comments, but I'm going to go next steps into how you get there using the tools, technology, and KPIs. So any questions you have about that, feel free to post in the chat or ask them in the Q&A. That'll be helpful so we can see it right here. And I'll open it up to the floor as I go along. And any questions you have, definitely could take the next step. Great question from Ryan Dice. Question is, I don't think it's the same Ryan Dice from Margaret, but Ryan. So great, good to meet you. No, you don't have. So his question was, do you have to have a large email list to make this work? No, you do not have to have a large email list to make this work at the next level, right? You can have an email list. We've done this with email lists that are as small as 4,000, 5,000 members, subscribers. You could do it there. Will it take a little longer? It could. At the end of the day, you need to build up your list. That's so critical to growth. You need to build up that list using that, as I showed you, how the top 1% think about it. They broadcast that offer out, bring it straight to the email. So you need to build your list too. You can't just sustain off a small list. You need to constantly acquire new people, but you can still get started here. You'd be surprised within the amount of a small list, 4,000 members could generate, $50,000 a month. I have no clue. We have to find out, but it doesn't matter about the size of your list. It's about the relationship you have to the list. That's the most important takeaway. It's not about the size of the list. It's about the relationship you have to the list. So great question. Jakob asked the question, how do we get to the next level of segmentation? Again, segmentation is really inherent within your tool, within your technology. If you have the right segmentation, you can start very basic. You can start with just saying like, send me everyone who's a clicker opener. Start there. Start sending one email out to 3 segments, and then start getting the learning going. Right? That's how you start driving it. You just start basic, and scale up from there. You don't need to get super granular. Take a lot of time to focus on one segment without being able to build it to scale. So remember we showed you about the within the segmentation. Focus on maybe people who are browsing your items right now, and start building automations around who's browsing items, because then you know that they're at least in the market to buy. So start your segmentation kind of very basic and scale out from there. Test, learn, refine. So within the spam strategy, I want to share with you the next steps in getting this onboarded. And this is more of the technical area. So glad to share exactly how we've leveraged this successfully and helped grow that revenue to that 300% and more, as you saw, using the following questions you start to ask first for the email provider to run. So a lot of people have asked us these questions because they want to see, can you work with my existing provider? So one of the questions are, what are the fees based on where the email provider you're on, right? If you're in constant contact with MailChimp or could be Mad Mimi or whatever else is out there, that I know pretty much every single email provider out there. I've worked with enterprise ones to Marsis to Sail Through, Responses. So I know the whole gamut of it. So one of the main questions to ask is how are you being priced out in terms of your email provider? How are they pricing you out? Are they pricing you out by the number of emails you send, or the contact list size, right? How big is your list size, or how many emails you're sending? So I would always say that go with the email provider that prices out based on contact list size, because then they have a vested interest in you growing your list, and they stack your. Otherwise, if they're just here to get your emails and have you send more emails, well, that's not part of the spam strategy, right? That's not the philosophy behind it. You want to send less emails, and they're investing in you sending more emails. So they're constantly remind you, send more emails, send more emails. So don't go with the ones who send more emails. It's not my recommendation. Go with the one that's invested in growing your list size, so you can focus on nurturing them into high value customers. Will I be sending emails from a shared IP or dedicated IP address? So another great question to ask. A shared IP means you're sending your email from a group of brands on the same IP address. So if you're on a shared IP, you could be sending emails to your list from on the same list that Brooklyn is sending, and Glossier is sending, Joe's Cats are sending, you name it. A ton of brands are on that one IP. If one brand hits the spam folder over and over and over again, that damages the IP address for your brand. So that's important to remember. Best to get a dedicated IP. We set up all our clients with, as best as possible, a dedicated IP, which means you control your own reputation and greater flexibility, and you want to hit the inbox. Another great question to ask, are your third-party integrations native to e-commerce? Ask your email provider this. Are everything you build, is it native to e-commerce? Are you dedicated to excelling in e-commerce? A lot of email providers tend to focus on integrations that are great for anyone sending an email. It could be a B2B client, SaaS, financial, banking, you name it. There's a lot of different integrations out there. So find an email provider that is native to e-commerce. That's why we like Klaviyo so much. We use Klaviyo for almost all our clients because they have the right integrations to help e-commerce brands grow. They're directly integrated with WooCommerce, Shopify, you name it. So everything works there really well and helps the brand, your e-commerce brand, get to the next level. Another final great question, which is kind of a secret question that not many people ask and not many people understand it. How do you deal with cross-device identification and anonymous browse data? So that's a great question, because it's really kind of a question that shows you the expert, so they won't mess around with you, is that some email providers store anonymous browse data. So if I'm looking at a site right now and that website hasn't gotten my email address or hasn't gotten my information, they will still capture it for your brand, but they'll only activate it for you to use when they sign up for an email. So that's valuable, because then if that person signs up for an email and they have browsed 10 products before, then that's all revealed to you. But until they sign up, until they get the email, until you get the email address, it's not unlocked. So that's a good win if you have an email provider that can actually store that data for you. It provides a huge advantage in converting new subscribers. So that's just 4 key questions to ask your email provider today, tomorrow, as you're taking next steps from this and taking, going to the next level. In addition, here are some of the MarTech essentials, marketing technology, MarTech, that are so important to scaling your e-commerce brand to the next level. We believe in the right technologies, not the most. And most of the time we get this shiny new object syndrome where we're jumping into the next technology out there and we realize it's not the right fit, or we see someone have a chat bot on their side, like, oh, I want that too. So it's about the right technologies, not the most, and not just kind of jumping after the latest thing. And here are the technologies you may want to implement to make sure you have the right data to implement the spam strategy. Number 1, you have to make sure you have all your historical purchase data in there. So critical. You want to have all customer data in there, including browse data, devices they're using, engagement data. Some of this is out of the box for some of the email providers, but there's some that may not be organic to a lot of the email providers. So you definitely have to ask to make sure they have that. Device data is so critical. If I browse an item on my mobile device and then go to my desktop, how do they pair it? So that's a question to ask too. Make sure you have that. Make sure it imports your entire product catalog and breadcrumbs and categories. So if you have you're looking at a Sony mirrorless camera, you want to be able to bring in the data camera, mirrorless camera, Sony camera. So kind of the breadcrumbs also that goes beyond your product catalog. So helpful for personalization, because then you can personalize a lot more what they're looking at. Make sure your tracking analytics is set up correctly. Many brands don't set up Google Analytics correctly, so they're kind of are not pairing the two. Your email provider is showing one data, your Google Analytics is showing another set of data, so you want to make sure they're paired up correctly. Definitely have to have your Facebook pixel installed. If you don't know how to do that, it's a quick Google search away. We've done hundreds of these. We know exactly where to start. And your ESP data, again, has to match up with your Google Analytics in some fashion. You know, there's two different attribution models. You just want to make sure they're communicating together and that you're seeing some sort of similar trend line. Some of the third-party tools we love to use within your e-commerce brand are Hotjar, which allows you to have a heat map on your site. You know, it's a free tool. Hotjar is great. Implement it on your homepage. You'll see where people are going. Opt-in Monster for light boxes and pop-ups. Persado helps with subject line testing. Attentive is for SMS, which is something we've already branched into. SMS, so combining email and SMS is great for developing a better customer relationship. Also great for, you know, transactional messages too. And finally, you want to make sure that your emails are designed to deliver and go to the inbox. So eDataSource is great. MX Tools is fantastic for helping with deliverability. Litmus is great for coding also. And so you can start developing the best looking emails, the ones that will reach the inbox better. Finally, on this level, we want to talk about how do you measure the results of the spam strategy. Now that you've gotten all the tactics, right person, right message, right time, repeat, we want to measure what does that mean to your business. So some of the KPIs, key performance indicators you should be looking at are open rate and click rate. That's your basic ones. Click to open rate. How many people have opened the email and clicked the email? You want to compare the two. You don't just want to head fake someone to open an email by a great subject line. You want to see if they're actually taking the next step and clicking through, right? That's kind of so key to your brand. Click to open rate. You can compare it by, you know, dividing the click rate by the open rate and gain that data right there. Heat map. Remember we said Hotjar. A lot of the great email providers provide a heat map to identify what is clicked on within your email. Great data point to show, maybe for your header and footer, which are always in your emails. Are they clicking on it? Are they not? Are they clicking on the main image? Are they clicking on the product recommendations, etc.? Look at your conversion rate too. As you get more personalized in your emails and segmented emails, personalized emails, your conversion rate should increase as well. So you want to see a growth in your conversion rate because you're getting the person to the right place to make a purchase, and you've personalized a lot better. So the conversion rate should go up too. Keep an eye on it. Another great secret area to focus on, especially when it comes to CRM, customer relationship marketing, lifecycle migration. Look at how many of your one-time buyers migrate over to two-time buyers and how many of your non-buyers go to one-time buyers, right? So that's the life cycle. You want to see, are my one-time buyers, if I implement the spam strategy for the one-time buyers, are they going to buy a second time, third time, fourth time? And how about my non-buyers? You probably have a significant amount of non-buyers on your list that you should be migrating over to a one-time buyer. Great KPI to look at. Definitely recommend doing that. So critical to any brands. So now that we're pretty much at the end, and we're going to be wrapping up the webinar, any takeaways you want to share, post in the Q&A, post in the chat, post in, share your remarks here. What are the key takeaways you want to implement now? What do you think you can implement now? And what are your roadblocks? And see where should you start? If you have any questions about that, most important part is if you need help, post let's talk in the comments and we can chat through the next steps after this. I think it's very informative for you to say, great, you have all these tools and strategies. Now, how do you implement it? There you go. Andrew said, I wouldn't even know where to start with this. So that's great. Yeah. It's knowing where to start is so critical. You need to know how to get started correctly. And I think if I were you, the best step would be, book a discovery call. We can chat with you offline and figure out how to get this moving for your business. Susan asked, what technology should we start with? The best technology you need to start with, honestly, is your email provider. Your email provider is everything, right? It's email strategy. So start with your email service provider. Make sure it's the right one. I highly recommend, I don't get commission on it, but I highly recommend Klaviyo. It is one of the best tools for e-commerce and strengthen your email CRM relationship. Start there. Definitely great. If you're looking at website, you asked about website technologies. That's also, if there's a website technology you should start with, is Hotjar. I think that's a really great tool to start with. I also would like you to use Opt-in Monster or some email capture tool that you can use, pretty easily. Get that up and running and make sure it's running correctly. So at least you're capturing emails, right? If you're paying ads on Facebook or Google and you're coming to a site and you're not capturing them in the best way, get that up and running too. So Hotjar and also, Opt-in Monster for lead capturing. Great. So I want to invite you guys to the next step, which is obviously we have a free strategy session, which is valued at about $500. We offer it to a lot of our people on this call, on the webinar, and I invite you to come book one too. In that free strategy session, we'll talk about your deliverability. We'll do a deliverability and audit report. We'll look at the customer journey. We look at things from the customer perspective and how they migrate over into the different levels. What is the first step? What is the first thing we see on their site? What is the next step? What happens in our email sign up? What happens when I abandon my cart? The whole customer journey, as I showed you before. We're going to review your design coding. We're going to give you feedback on the campaigns and promotions. This is totally free, all for you. We're going to analyze your automations and nurture series within our strategy session. We're going to audit your website conversion effectiveness to get an idea about how well is it converting, can it be improved? And we're going to review the retargeting experience, all that within our strategy session. So I invite you to go to HiFlyerDigital.com/book. Go there. You can book a free strategy session. We'll get right on it pretty quickly, or call us right here, and I'm glad to jump on that pretty seamlessly. And again, it's not just about what I'm talking about. We're talking the talk right now. Let's get to walking the walk. I think it's going to be so important. Together, to recap this, together, our goal here is to, we want to be able to level the playing field, help your brand become more profitable. That's what the takeaways are here. Become more profitable, a bigger brand. We want to help you improve your customer relationships. That's what email and CRM is about. Improve the customer relationship, grow your customer value and loyalty. So important. And at the end of the day, our mission is to elevate your brand to compete and win against the best e-commerce brands out there, against the direct-to-consumer startups, against Amazon, against anyone who's kind of branching into your niche, into your industry. We want to elevate your brand to compete and win, and we do that by, crawl, walk, run, fly. Starts with first steps. S.P.A.M strategy is the first step, and our goal is to get you to turn on that automations, make everything run on autopilot, and get you to that next level. At which point, work smart, not hard. You don't have to worry about it anymore. So that's our team. Thank you for joining me on this webinar. I invite you to, make it happen. Go to HiFlyerDigital.com/book, and you can simply go there, book your free strategy session, and take the next steps. I hope this webinar was extremely informative to you. Thank you all for sharing your comments and sharing your questions and posting in the chat. I'm really glad to have had the opportunity to be here with you. And I invite you to join our next webinar too. We're going to host a monthly webinar. The next one we're going to talk about is the top 5 automations you should be having for your business, for your e-commerce business, that can be turned on, within 48 hours, let's say. So that's going to be very informative too. So it's a little bit beyond the S.P.A.M strategy, but that's very informative. I invite you to join that. Check out our page at HiFlyer.com, HiFlyerDigital.com/webinars. Get some more information. But at the same time, book a free strategy session. In addition, I will send you all the elements we talked about before, the growth guide, the cheat sheet, if you stay to the end, and we're going to get them all over to you, as well as a recording of this webinar. Thank you for joining. I look forward to seeing your emails in my inbox.